Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming over. So last day of Summit, I hope everybody is going to the bash tonight as well. Lots of really good content still today to come. So I'm going to introduce you right now Serhat Can, who is the technical evangelist for Ops Genie, and he'll talk about building a healthy on-call culture. So welcome, Serhat.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Serhat Can, and I work for Atlassian Ops Genie team. I'm the technical evangelist for the team. I'm also an AWS community hero and one of the global co-organizers of DevOps Days events. So if you want to talk about, like after this talk, AWS, DevOps, on-call, just stop by and say hi. I'll be happy to chat with you guys. So we are going to talk about building a healthy on-call culture today. But before, I have a couple of questions for you guys. So my first question, any one of you had any experience dealing with an IT incident before? Awesome crowd, so I love this. OK, second, so are you working in an organization that expects you to be on call? Wow, amazing. OK, this is going to be fun. So do you think on-call sucks? OK, great. So a lot of people think on-call sucks. So I had similar feelings as well. But I think there are some practices that will help make on-call better. And today we're going to talk about those. But before, I want to talk about like why on-call matters. So even the, as you know, like even the services that needs to be the most reliable fails all the time. And we know these, famous stories, like companies like, providing services like 5, 6, or 9 nines, failing and, bringing down most of the services with them. But these things can get even more serious. I'm not, just talking about these kind of services. So I'm also talking about even the services that our lives depend on. So I'm going to give you some examples from 911. So over the years, 911 had many outages. And two of them, I'm going to talk about two of them now. So in 2014, on a June morning in Washington, E911's IT manager was alerted. So someone was trying to reach out to 911, but he couldn't. And he was able to reach out by borrowing someone else's phone. And they identified that the problem only happened for a specific telecom provider. So they tried to reach out to telecom provider, but they couldn't. They didn't respond. So the problem is solved only hours later. They had no idea what happened. So it was a mess. And in 2018, just last year, there was even a bigger outage. So the data center company, the data center provider that most of the telecom providers use had a big outage. And the outage brought down many of the telecom providers' 911 service over a day. So that was a pretty big incident. And not all incidents are distressful, but when these incidents happen, we need people working on these incidents. We need on-call people, right? But there is a problem. As you also feel, as sometimes I also feel, on-call might suck. So, and most people think that on-call sucks, right? And in tech industry, on-call is often seen as source of stress and burnout as well. And when you get up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. or can't go to the beach, there's Mandalay Beach but you can't go, then it's not the most fun thing, right? And actually, research backed this up. So the researchers from Hamburg University worked with 132 individuals, and they collected daily surveys over a period of 4 days, during that the participants required to be on call and during which they were not. And they also collected cortisol level samples, the body's main stress hormone, from 51 of them. And the results are very clear. The results show that on call, even if there is no alert, even if they don't get called, is stressful. And the stress continues after on call also, on call also ends, when ends. And it is very important to acknowledge that fact. it is important to acknowledge that on-call is not leisure time. On-call needs to be compensated. So as this software development industry, we had a lot of good steps towards reducing the stress by making small iterations, by dividing teams into small parts, and also DevOps principles help a lot. And Atlassian had a supporting data on this. So Atlassian surveyed over 500 IT professionals and found out that adopting CI/CD solutions lowered the number of bugs and outages by 57%. So we especially see this, change with companies adapting the CI/CD solutions, going microservices, but microservices also weren't easy. Just building CI/CD pipelines and automating things weren't enough. So we took the idea of empowering teams one step further. And Dr. Wagner-Vogels changed the industry by saying, you built it, you run it, with this mentality. So nowadays, we see everyone following this idea. Big companies like Atlassian, Amazon, Netflix, everyone with slightly different practices, they're all following this idea, empowering teams to also own operations. So today, developers with DevOps especially are doing more operations stuff, as well as operations folks are doing more development stuff. And as Opsgenie, we also had a similar transition. So like 2 years ago, back then when our engineering team was 15 people, only the 2 technical co-founders were taking on-call responsibilities. But that didn't scale very well. So the pager load got increased at some point. We were adding a lot of new team members. And we decided to put developers in the on-call schedules as well. And we saw many benefits in doing so. So now I'm going to talk about the benefits of putting developers on call. And first of all, this helps companies meet the increasing demands, ever-increasing demands around availability, security, and reliability of our applications. Because, developers of these services often are the most qualified people who can solve the problems faster. And the second one is, it helps better alignment of development and operations teams. So the main reason is because now developers experience the problems from the first hand, now they actually start caring about things like they know, that they see the effect of those logs that they did not write. They start caring about things like testing, instrumentation, monitoring, alerting. Now they see the effects of those things. And developers on call definitely helps better alignment of operations and developers. And the last benefit I'd like to mention is, often we oversee this, but I think this is also very important. It also helps better alignment of development and business, development and management. Because now managers are able to see how much their developers spend time on these, on these sacrifices they make while they are trying to ship the features, and then they see the effort and the time spent on these alerts. Now they start to they start to prioritize work related with reliability. So now let me share a personal story with you. So it was about 5 p.m. on Friday evening, and we were finally ready to ship the feature we worked on for 2 weeks. And obviously that was a mistake. So if you are going to remember one thing from this presentation, maybe let it be the fact that you should never ever ship especially big features on Friday evening, right? But you will do that anyway. We do that anyway. So, so it was about Elasticsearch. So we worked on this feature. Basically, the feature was something that related with the alerts in how we index our alerts. And if you know Opsgenie, you know that the alerting page is the main page. So it is kind of a big deal. When you enter Opsgenie, first thing you see is the alerting page. So we did a lot of testing. We put the feature in, we test the feature in staging and then put it on production. Everything was fine. We were, following the metrics and everything. So we were just about to leave, and I got paged. So let me go through the incident timeline. So first, actually, I didn't get an automated alert. First, our customer success team asked, if something is wrong. Customers were reporting problems. Customers were seeing some inconsistencies on the UI. They were acknowledging or closing alerts, but they were still seeing, alerts open. Even though they acknowledged the alert, it wasn't acknowledged on the UI. So the next thing, after customer success team also able to replicate the problem, the next thing they did was to create an alert. So we have Opsgenie Slack application, and what they do in this case, they go to Slack and type a command /genie through the Slack application and say that there are some inconsistencies on the alerting page, and that alert page the alerting team's on-call engineer. I still don't know at that point what is going on. So then on-call engineers look for the recent changes on Jira, what recently sent to production. And he realized that we just sent the Elasticsearch issue. So he's also aware of the issue. So he sees my name. He adds me as a responder to the alert. I got paged. I hop on Slack and start talking with him. So at that point, we tried to debug the problem, see what we can do. We spent some time, about 15 minutes. And then we decided that we should bring in the incident response team because this is a high priority incident for us. Even though it doesn't affect the notification flow or, we still get the alerts, we still deliver the notifications, everything is fine, but still it's very visible and people think that, alerts don't work. So it is kind of a high priority incident for us. So from the alert, we create an incident, and creation of the incident pages 5 other people, bring in the incident response team. Some of them were still in the office. Some of them joined the conference bridge. So we started working on the issue. So as we started looking at the code, we still couldn't figure out what is wrong. And one of the engineers suggested this option we had. At the time, we had 2 clusters running at the same time for Elasticsearch. And we had this option to disable one of the clusters and just route the traffic to one of the clusters. And we actually tried that because we actually knew that could work, but we weren't sure. So we tried that. We disabled one of the clusters, and it actually worked. We had some inconsistent alerts, but the new alerts were in the right states, even if we acknowledge or close the alert. So, but as we disabled one of the clusters, we started getting alerts from Amazon CloudWatch because more rows was going through the remaining cluster. So we get some alerts from CPU usage increase kind of alerts. But we knew that, and we knew also that the Elasticsearch remaining cluster is able to handle that load, so it's okay. What we did is we select the alert, associated the alert with the existing incident at that point, so that we have everything related with the incident under the same incident. And after a lot of debugging, we spent more than an hour trying to find a problem, the code with the co-founders, senior engineers, and we were able to, at that point, we were able to spot a bug. Basically, the bug was reading from one of the clusters and writing from another cluster instead of, you should write the existing cluster, because at that point, Elasticsearch is asynchronous, so we were basically losing the state of the alert. Then we fixed the code. It took also some time, but we still had inconsistencies. The existing alerts were at the wrong state. And it was around, I think, 2 a.m. when we run the data sync job and bring back the Elasticsearch to the healthy state. So every alert is in the correct state. And we were at home, in the middle of the just the sun is rising when we were getting home. So it was kind of a bad day for me. But we had a lot of learnings. So now I'm going to talk about our learnings from that incident, and I'm going to also add some of the learnings we had throughout our journey. We also run a very reliable service, Opsgenie, and we have had a lot of learnings throughout the years. So I think there are 4 important key takeaways if you want to build a healthy on-call culture. So now we are going to talk about those. So first, we are going to talk about actionable alerts, and then training, the importance of training, and then transparency, and finally, we are going to talk about analysis and learning. So my first key takeaway towards a healthier on-call culture is actionable alerts. So what do I mean by actionable alerts? So actionable alerts for me is alerts that are there for a reason. I mean, something really must have happened. And they also give you clues like how to start investigating the issue and hopefully how to solve the issue. So these are extremely important during on-call because actionable alerts provide guidance and context to reduce mean time to resolve and, most importantly, stress. And as part of actionable alerts, I have 3 things I want to mention. So the first one is automated alerting. Well, you should try to catch inconsistencies before customers notice. And in our case, in my experience, we couldn't at this time, but usually, well, that is our goal. But sometimes, basically, you cannot do it. At the time, we couldn't do it, but we also fixed our alerts and added additional alerts about these things. But on the other hand, we were good at specifying how customer success engineers create alerts, so they knew that they could just use Slack integration and page the right team. So another thing that we did right was that we were able to group the alerts automatically, and also we were able to attach the incoming alert from the CloudWatch to the existing incident, so everything is on one place. During stressful situations, it is very important to have clear visibility into what is going on. And the second one I'd like to mention is to have clear escalation paths. We need to make it easy to call for help. Again, Slack application is a good example, but also on-call engineer added me as a responder, so I got paged. And also, we also brought in the incident response team by just creating the incident. The on-call engineers didn't know who to call. It was already set up. They were all paged automatically. This is very important. And also, we didn't need it, but we had escalations in place. So if Opsgenie couldn't reach the on-call person, Opsgenie would call the next person on the escalation path. And also, we'll try to basically ensure that someone is taking care of the problem. As a last step for high priority incidents, for example, we page the whole team. And the last one I'd like to mention is leveraging one-click actions and guides. So one-click actions on alerts help on-call execute actions like getting alerts from your logging tool, or restarting an EC2 instance, or adding a new instance to your load balancer. So you can automate this stuff, especially during incidents, during stressful situations. Having these things automated help reduce the stress and also, reduce the chances of making a mistake. And also, there is a lot of value in having runbooks. Runbooks show you how to start investigating the issue and hopefully, again, solve the issue. And during stressful situations, runbooks help you move in confidence and, again, reduce the stress. So my second key takeaway is training. So as we train our teams, obviously they will gain more confidence. And it is very important to update our on-call schedules and bring in more people time to time, because we tend to keep the same people in the on-call schedule, but in time, if they get a lot of alerts, if they're on call a lot of times, basically they start to burn out. And that is why we need to bring in more engineers in on-call schedules and train them and explain the basics and give access to the right tools, basically onboard them. And a practice that you might use is shadowing. So shadowing is putting an experienced engineer with an inexperienced engineer to the on-call schedule at the same time, so they are paged at the same time, they start working on the issue at the same time, so it is less stressful for an inexperienced engineer and help learn on the job. So at Opsgenie, we also, once engineers get some experience, we also organize sessions, explain them the on-call basics, and introduce the tools and dashboards and our monitoring tools. And another practice that you can apply is having game days. So back at the time, we didn't do these, and I think these are gold, because game days are basically rehearsing incident response before they happen. And you might know, but also you can combine these with chaos engineering practices and try these things on production. Again, like at the time we failed this, but it was okay, because in our case it was it was only affecting one small team. But if the incident is kind of with a service that has dependencies to other services, then you might need to bring in multiple teams in place and work with them. And in that case, it is very important to basically everyone to know what they should do and how they should react. So having proper roles like incident commander, scribe, or subject matter expert is very crucial. And with Opsgenie, you can do that. Like if you configure that way before the incident happens, you can configure in Opsgenie and assign people roles. And when they are paged, they know their role. And it will be also visible in the ICC, Incident Command Center, which basically Opsgenie's real-time communications feature that we use to communicate in real time during incidents. You just click a button on the alert, and you hop onto a video bridge, for example, and talk with the incident response team. And everyone's role is already set up, and they can chat, and they have the visibility into alerts and incidents. So Opsgenie automates this stuff as well. So the third item in my list is transparency. So obviously, transparency is very critical in many aspects of any business, but it is, I think, a must in on-call, because it makes on-call more humane. And to put Atlassian's open company no bullshit value in practice, we do many things at Atlassian. And Atlassian recently opened its Ops handbook, so it is available at atlassian.com/software/jira/ops/handbook. And you can go and check it out. Of course, you shouldn't use like everything that is there, but you can learn from our experiences, from our practices. And as the Atlassian's Opsgenie team, we also have our own incident documents. And within those documents, we state our expectations around on-call. Like, we state our expectations around on-call's responsibilities and not responsibilities, what we expect and what we don't expect from on-call. And also, we state things like, how to switch shifts temporarily, things like how to hand over on-call, things like flexibility of working from home after, dealing with an incident at night. It is very important to write these things down and make it available for everyone to see within the team. So specifying these policies basically help people know what they're expected and what they are not expected. So when it comes to transparency, stakeholder communication is very important. So these incidents basically sometimes are affecting our internal customers or other teams, or sometimes are affecting directly our customers. And they need to know what is happening so that they can take actions to protect themselves if necessary. So in our case, we were fast to enter the first status page entry, but following the first status page entry, we were not that fast, so that was one of our action items, send more regular updates and keep people up to date. This is especially important with public status pages. But in Opsgenie, we also have internal status pages. So if you create an incident in Opsgenie, other subscribe teams to the service will be able to get a notification and then take the necessary actions if necessary. We'll realize that there's something going on with the service that they depend on, they monitor. So Opsgenie helps internal stakeholders to have visibility into other services and what is happening. And the last one in my list is about analyzing and learning from each incident. Because if we don't analyze and learn from incidents, obviously they are just failures. But if we learn from them, they are basically learning opportunities. We can improve ourselves. And as part of analysis and learning, the first thing you need to do is to have data. Without data, you don't know what to improve. And that is why we record every detail. Even if not just the actions you took, we also record every detail, like on-call changes to schedules, like incident response process. Even during the incident response, during the incident response, real-time chat logs, everything you do in Opsgenie, we record them and make them available to you afterwards. So in our case, Opsgenie, so then we can use this data to improve on-call by examining things like on-call times of engineers. Then if you see someone taking a lot of on-call work, then you might reduce some of the load and bring in more engineers. And you can also see things like teams' performances, like whether how fast they are in acknowledging their alerts, how fast they are in closing the alerts, or even have service health dashboards and see services alert counts over time. And then based on this data, you can prioritize whether you want to invest in which service or not. Then we should be obviously writing our postmortems or post-incident reviews as soon as possible. This is very important. And in Opsgenie, we just released our postmortem feature. So we write postmortems to describe what happened and how we can avoid obviously similar problems in the future. And having these documents shared publicly help build trust with the customers. So one important key in these documents is to be blameless, because it is only natural, like people's first tendency to blame someone, but that never works well. So apart from the fact that incidents in complex systems are inevitable, you are going to fail no matter what, probably you didn't invest enough in automation, you didn't invest in taking necessary measures for people to make mistakes. So it is never people's fault. If you blame someone, basically, they might stop taking responsibilities. They might, in the worst case, they might even not say if something happens, hide things from you. So that never ends well. So it is very important to be constructive during incidents. So I would like to also mention the compensation part. Again, remember, we talked about on-call, that on-call is not something that is not as part of our leisure time. So if you are on call, even if you don't get alert, it is stressful. So some companies give a day off, some companies pay an extra money. Also, in some countries, this is protected by law. But you have to have some sort of compensation, and because your engineers are putting this extra effort, you have to also compensate. So we started this talk talking about how DevOps changed the way we do operations, the way we do on-call. As we talked about operations people doing more developer work, as well as developers doing more operations work, developers becoming more and more taking on core responsibilities. And this helps distribute the load because most of the time there was a small operations team and taking all the load, reliable to work, and they were burning out, but this doesn't scale. So then we talked about 4 key takeaways. We talked about actionable alerts. We talk about the importance of automated alerting, catching problems before customers realize. So we talked about one-click alert actions and why they're important to reduce the stress during incidents through automation. And then we talked about training. As part of training, we talked about the importance of onboarding new engineers over time, not just keeping the same people all the time in the on-call schedules, but onboarding new people all the time. And also, as a practice, you can use, again, shadowing. And we also talked about game days. So again, game days are basically training for incidents, and you can also have a lot of fun during game days and have some pizza and have some games during game days. These definitely help reduce stress during stressful incident response situations. And we also talk about transparency. As part of transparency, again, you can take a look at our Ops handbook, and we also have playbooks around on-call. And as part of transparency, the other thing we talked about was postmortems. Writing postmortems as soon as possible, being careful about making them blameless. And finally, we talked about analysis and learning, and it starts with, again, collecting the data and using that data to improve on-call. So as I told you before, on-call, by definition, is stressful and can lead to stress and burnout. And applying these 4 principles will drive good results in making on-call happier and healthier for your organization. So we should put people our first, and remember, so the less stressful the on-call is, the healthier your teams are. So they can focus on what really matters and can enjoy work and bring the best out of themselves every day. Thank you very much. I will be at the Opportunity booth after this talk, and if you didn't stop by our booth, I encourage you to come and talk with us. We have a lot of people, our product head and other customer success, head of customer success, and everyone that you can talk to. You can learn a lot of things from these guys, and we are here for just today. So please come and say hi. Thank you very much.